Okay. Okay. I'm going to call to order the Community Redevelopment Agency this Tuesday, October 28th, 2014. If you will call the roll, please.
Chairwoman Eloise Taylor.
Here.
Vice Chair Bill Colombo.
Here.
Board Member Steve O'Neill.
Here.
Board Member Nancy Britton. Here. Board Member Terrence Rowe.
Here.
City Attorney Joseph Public.
Here.
And City Manager Tom O'Neill.
Here.
Okay, the first item is to approve the Community Redevelopment Agency minutes from September 25th, 2014. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve? Second.
All right, motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Announcements, Mr. O'Neill.
None at this time.
Joe?
Nothing from the audit.
Comments from the public?
Hello, Walter Lowe's with Gildog, 5419 Treadway. Just a reminder once again, as I think the mayor had mentioned earlier, in the previous CRA presentations, that there was itemized list of improvements that we had sort of brought up for the waterfront, which included the street landscaping, including the sidewalk, also marquee signage off of 19 to be consistent, hopefully, with some of the efforts that are going along with the new harbors redevelopment, but that we could sort of show the way, I guess, with some of the marquee signage off 19, and obviously the dredge. So just wanted to remind that was the sort of list that we had, that I had presented out on previously. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Kristen Tonkin, representing Sunset Landing Marina, 5115 Sunset Boulevard. I was on Duke Energy website today, and I noticed that they had lighting. We have lighting in our marina yard. You know, it's dusk to dawn lighting, but they also, on Duke Energy's website, they have lamps that you can decorate with. So you can choose the lamp that you want to use in the area. It's kind of cool. Just something to say about the lighting that we're going to put forward. That's all.
Okay, thank you.
Good information.
All right, anyone else? Any comments from the board? All right, then I'll move on to the discussion of fundraisers for the waterfront park, playground, and restrooms. Mr. O'Neill.
Yes, this is listed on the agenda tonight in order that the CRA may continue its discussion regarding fundraising for the waterfront park and the playground. We have attached a letter that was prepared by Assistant City Manager Jocelyn Martinez soliciting funding for the proposed improvements. And so your discussion could occur and provide us with any direction as you see appropriate.
Well, it was my understanding that in a CRA meeting, the council, if you should have me, would have to adopt me as kind of like the spokesperson for this project. Mr. O'Neill, am I correct? So that
That could happen, sure.
Okay, well, that's what you instructed me, and that's why I'm bringing it up, that we would have to.
Well, what I suggested was that, you know, you bring that matter up and seek direction from the council, or to speak on behalf of the council or the CRA.
Okay, okay. So we did read this letter to everyone, and would you like it read again, or are you guys okay with it? Okay, good. So you know, we have our board, our little group that's getting together. I just had somebody email me recently to tell me that they want to also join. The purpose of this letter is just to see if there's any interested people that where we can possibly fund this project through the community for a universal playground. And so I guess I'm asking the council, is it okay with you all if I proceed and become the spokesperson, and we go in the direction of sending this letter out to local businesses, et cetera, to see what kind of interest the community, how the community will respond.
Now, would that be in the name of the city or the name of just this, the group of folks you've been working with?
No, it's going to have to, because it's city property and whatnot. No, it has to go out.
Well, I mean, because my thought is, the best thing to do would be to just form a small not-profit corporation called like Friends of the Park, and they could solicit funds, and the city could contribute to funds, and then they could donate the money to that corporation. And I mean, it's
The problem I see with that is the cost of setting up the not-for-profit.
The not-for-profit is-
Before you get in the
Right,
monies,
right,
before
yeah.
you get a barometer.
or in the
of
time it
interest.
takes too, yeah, because the
Exactly.
IRS has to. Well, I mean, you could set up a not-for-profit, but.
No, you gotta qualify it.
Well, I thought you only had the qualifying part came under the tax exempt. In other words, donations are deductible standpoint. That's where I thought the time came.
Then, no, I'm not an expert.
I mean,
in
I'm not
not-for-profits,
I'm
but I
certainly not an
know
expert in
The
it.
procedure to
Yeah,
set them up is
right.
arduous.
Right.
Well, and I think that's an important part because if you look at this letter, we don't bring any of that up in this letter. We're just looking for the opportunity to find out, okay, does anybody have interest? Now, if somebody comes to me and says, well, gee, if I give you a significant donation, can I write this off of my taxes? I've got to have an answer for that.
Well, I believe donations directly to the city are tax deductible, aren't
Now, Pete Schatzel wanted us to set it up how again?
Pete Schatzel recommended that we have donation commitments instead
Right,
of
that's right.
actually
That's
taking money.
So we won't take money initially, we'll just get donation commitments. Then, if we see that there is enough interested parties to go forward in the right direction with this, that's when I come back to council and say, okay, here's where we're at. This is what we'd like to do. This is the commitments that we've gotten so far. Should we proceed with some type of
Well, yeah, what
nonprofit, or maybe we can
Pete
even-
making recommendations where you go from that point after the commitments, if you want to move forward?
No, we haven't gotten that far. We were just concerned about initially how we would go about collecting money
Right.
from an accounting perspective.
Yeah,
how
I'd
we
like
would-
to, and Joe, I mean, I'd like to know that too, from a legal standpoint, because like I said, I'm certain that charitable donations to the city are tax deductible directly to the city. So at that point, we could set up a fund, but, a specific fund for just that use.
Joe, I think that the bridge that we're crossing right now is that we sent this letter out, we asked for a commitment, somebody comes back and says, well, how do we charge, how do we deduct this from our taxes and whatnot? What direction are we gonna go in there?
Well, I wouldn't recommend the city advising anybody of that. They really need to consult their own,
Oh, I understand,
their own
but,
tax professional. I don't know personally whether or not they are tax deductible or not. It wouldn't surprise me if they are, but it's not an issue I've ever looked into before. That's something I figure I could determine fairly quickly.
all right, well, that's a good answer, because at this point then, it is not our responsibility. Now, should we set some type of nonprofit organization up, which could take us a really long time? I mean, that really does take a
Well,
very,
of course, I always have in mind things like Main Street USA, where, or Main Street Newport Richie, where, you have an organization that can do a variety of tasks like that makes public-private working together so much easier, because there's basically a nonprofit in the middle.
right, well, as a council person, I couldn't be a part of that. I mean, that would be,
No, you could. Well,
you'd have to
yeah,
have somebody that would pick that up.
That's right, yeah.
And it
Yeah.
would be a tough road to hoe, because I don't know who would take on that responsibility. I mean, I'm trying to go forward with this, and I
Right.
keep getting hurdles.
Well, as a question to you, just looking at the letter in general, and, I applaud yourself and others working on this. I think it's certainly a very good cause. And it explains, in the very beginning of this letter, but I question there when you go into the actual cost factors, you know, you've got the 125, the 145, the 333. Do you feel that, you know, that I guess needs to be there? You know, in other words, if you're basically laying out, you know, an accessible playground, I don't know, I guess I'm looking at these particular numbers as figures that are, you know, would actually be that accurate, maybe. I don't know.
Well,
Do we need to throw them in there?
The figures came from Mr. O'Neill based on some of the projections that we have from the artisan drawings and engineering and whatnot that was already done for
The master plan, yeah.
the master
Yes, because
plan.
you're not just talking about the accessible playground area itself. You're encompassing, you know, obviously the restroom facilities at 145.
Because we have to.
The use areas.
We
and-
have to.
and
We can't have
walkways.
an accessible, universal playground without lavatories for them to use. We can't
And
have a
proper
universal
walkways.
playground without parking. We can't have a universal playground without walkways to get to the universal playground. So that's what we're incorporating here. So yes, I think it's important that we put the amount out, because if I have a company, that has the means to give me, you know, $20,000 versus $5, I want them to know what this project's going to cost, and give them everything up front. This is what we foresee, you know, and will we get all this? Maybe not. Maybe we'll only get, you know, let me say, maybe we'll only get $500,000. You know, then would our CRA be able to kick in? So that's a whole nother.
Well, and then the other side of that is what is a per se timeline on the commitment? You know, you're right. You could say, yeah, we may see $500,000. You know, the other side of that is you know, I mean, in these tough times, what if we don't? You know,
Well, if we
what is
don't,
the
then we
action
don't go
going
forward. This is the whole point of the letter. It's to do something rather than sit here and say, well, what if? You know, at least I'm here, putting something out there, and you know, let's see what kind of interest we get.
Oh, and I applaud you for that. I guess that's my reason for pointing out these particular numbers, is that, you know, you're finding some other common ground on a particular, you know, I mean on this area in general, but we're not labeling you know, those per cost items. We're just maybe labeling a cost item, if you get what I mean. But anyway, just my thought.
Joe,
Yes, sir.
what I'm thinking possibly here to move this forward is, you know, what do we have to do to solicit pledges? And if we get some advice from Pete Schatzel and we revise our letter to solicit a pledge, do you have any issues with that?
No, I don't. I quickly looked up the IRS code, section 170, and charitable donations to the city are tax deductible as long as they're for a public purpose.
Right.
So we could throw some language in there to that, which may encourage some people to be a little more generous.
So we could revise this to seek a pledge and incorporate language that notifies people that anything that they do contribute is not subject to taxation.
Yes.
And so could we move forward with that, in your opinion?
Yes, you could.
Bingo.
I'm good.
Okay.
That's why we keep you around, Tom. Okay.
Is that why we keep you around?
Okay, so, good. So if we revise this letter, because I don't want to have to wait for another CRA meeting, you know, if we revise this letter and, you know, you guys are comfortable in the powers that be, Jocelyn and Tom and myself, that we're going to put this letter together and make it, you know, perfect. Do we have your blessing to go forward with mailing it out?
All right, do we need a consensus on this?
I think a nodding of the heads
Yeah.
would be acceptable to me.
Okay. I'm okay with it. Yes.
As long as it's run by the city attorney for
Right.
conformity, then I don't have a problem with it either. All right. Before we close this off, I want to ask any member of the public if they want to address this issue.
Here comes the man with the first pledge.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah,
Welcome,
I've
Eric.
been doing nothing but pledging, thanks. First of all, I think it's excellent idea. I think it's, you know, progressive for sure, and I don't know if there's a way to piggyback off the Bayou Business Association that we're trying to do. If I'm understanding correctly, I don't know why you would need council approval or anything to do all that. I mean, you could just do that on the side.
No, because I think because I'm sorry.
I mean, as a team player, for sure.
If,
but-
if you're soliciting funds, then we need a mechanism to make sure that we're doing it properly. It's segregated in a fund that isn't for its intended purpose.
Right, but I mean, if we were a nonprofit, for example, the River Ridge Booster Club, we solicited funds all the time. So, I mean, you're saying Friends of the Park, it doesn't, actually, I think you'd probably get more bang from the buck if you didn't solicit funds as the city. You'd be better off doing it as a separate nonprofit.
But as was said, I mean, not to make a dialogue out of this, but as was said, it takes time and effort to set up a nonprofit, especially for tax deductible reasons, where a donation directly to the city for a charitable cause is automatically tax deductible. We don't have to do anything.
Well, just a humble opinion, I think it's a great idea.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, oh,
Walt?
Do we let them both talk at the same time? I thought they were tag teaming.
That's allowed, right? As Eric had mentioned, we are in the process, we met actually with attorneys to formalize Bayou Business Association for waterfront related efforts and help out with some of those efforts. So that's the first thing. So, you know, if that makes sense, then making that available, I guess. But number two is with the park improvements, is that for the waterfront?
Yes.
Just wonder if we might want to start with making the restrooms maybe somewhat accessible. and
that's
inviting people in, you know, fixing the restrooms that we currently have. If you guys been over there recently?
Yeah, we all got a pretty good idea.
Yeah, all
of the
right.
restaurant.
So that probably would be a good starting point. Probably we probably could handle that part just through some roll up some sleeves and get some paint and get on over there. And take care of that first before. But then with the park improvements, is that consistent with, I guess, the plans that are called for with the overall park redevelopment? I guess I don't know with
Yes.
Yes,
what development.
the master plan, yes.
The master plan.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Cool. Thank you.
yeah, and honestly, how the local businesses can be of help, because we have a small team right now. Jocelyn, myself, Mr. Lee, we have one other lady, and then this other gentleman that just wrote me as a realtor and said that he doesn't have a lot of money. Sales haven't been great lately, but he sure would like to get involved. So I thought that was really nice. So, you know, you guys can maybe take some of our letters, pass them out to business owners that you know, so that we don't have to do a huge mailing. I mean, we'd like to do some mailing, but, you know, we're talking budgets, and so, you know, it's going to be a lot of footwork passing it out to business owners. And I'm going to go to places like even the chamber and say to the chamber, hey, is there a way you can pop this in your newsletter? They may look at me like I have 6 heads and say no way, but, you know, I'm going to try.
That happens all the time.
So those are kind of some of my ideas for getting this out. So all this is an opportunity to say to the community, hey, we'd love to do this project. Are you in it with us?
Yep.
You know, as a small city, and I know I'm going to get the phone calls, you know, well, you're a city, you know, you have taxpayer dollars and whatnot, but, you know, we are a small city. There's just a small group of us, and this is something we're really essentially doing for the entire, you know, at least the west side of the county. I would imagine that some people would travel from the east side of the county, but it would be quite a long drive for them. But I don't know, we'll see. But I already have people that have come to me. The Sheriff's Department wants to give us labor, and Leaning Tower Pizza. Carl has asked me 2 or 3 times why I haven't sent him the letter yet. So that's
Could we
a
ask
good
too-
start, and I haven't really told too many people about it. So
Nancy, could we ask too, at the last meeting when you had brought this up, there was a question of outreach beyond the community. You know, today with the social media, internet, et cetera, you've seen some of this on news channels, you know, where something had come up, and there's been considerable donations made
Well, yeah,
too.
hey, if we can
But
get.
I don't know if that's something your group is yet
If
to
we can
talk
get News
about.
Channel 8 and 13 and all these others to jump in and give us a little bit of time, and the newspapers, of course, we're going to send this letter out everywhere. We can send it out as a press release, however we want to do it, after Joe sees it.
Okay. I think you've got your nods of approval,
Rock
so
and
let's
roll.
move on.
Woohoo!
Consideration of the extension hike and bike trail sidewalk. Mr. O'Neill.
Yes, I'll be brief with this. We've previously discussed this extension. We've proposed here in your packet tonight to extend the hike and bike trail from the driveway at the entryway to the waterfront park to the northern boundary of the Gildog property. We're proposing to build a 5-foot wide concrete sidewalk as an extension of the hike and bike trail. And it would be generally as depicted on the map. On the map, you'll see that we have a few trees that we're going to curve around as we plan this sidewalk. I would like to do some landscape plantings on this. I have some decorative multi-stem crepe myrtles in mind. Also, this is a very dark area at night. And I would like your blessing to have street lighting installed for purposes of illuminating this walkway. Gildog has proposed to connect to this and connect to the boardwalk that is on the water. And as I've indicated in the memo, we're ready to start on this. We could mobilize out there next week, and I believe it would take us approximately 4 weeks to get this done. And so I would estimate the amount not to exceed $10,000. It's not going to be that high unless we have some unexpected items, but I just wanted your consideration and authorization prior to proceeding on this.
What kind of lighting do you envision?
It's certainly at your discretion. What I had thought is that we would put the new LED streetlights up that are Cobra arm fixtures available through Duke Energy. If you wanted a more decorative fixture, we can do that. And so it's at your discretion.
Well, I think before the final decision is made, I think we need to look at the options, because one of the things we talked about previously we're connecting this to the waterfront district and the landscaping and the decorative lighting down there. It would be nice maybe that there be a connectivity
Carry
between the
through,
two and start to make it something really pretty and attractive.
I could,
It's always a cost factor.
if it's okay with you, we could start the sidewalk and start the landscaping and lay the conduit for the decorative street lighting and get that part of it done, and then I could bring back some street lighting fixture exhibits for your selection and approval.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah. And
Anyone
again, I just, again, I thought we had pretty much already approved this, so I'm with it. Just to be clear, though, where we're ending the project is essentially at the end of city right away at that point. We can't go any further.
No, this sidewalk would terminate at the boundary of the waterfront park property
Right.
and the boundary of the Gildog property.
right.
I have not had the right-of-way staked, but it is fairly narrow at that point, and it's likely that some of this sidewalk would be on public right-of-way and also on waterfront park property, but it's essentially at that boundary.
Yeah, I would love to see it eventually connect to, what's that road that goes,
Treadway.
Treadway, connect to Treadway.
How is this, all right, let's just play devil's advocate here. Suppose we get the funding for this playground. Now I got big trucks coming in, messing up that whole big thing we just did.
They would use the driveway.
Well, I know, but they're still gonna make a mess over there and ruin things.
Not
I
along
don't
that
think it would ruin this sidewalk.
No?
Yeah.
I don't wanna spend money and then have something ruined. I know how construction people are.
Hey, careful.
Well, they're not neat.
Madam Mayor?
Mr.
Comment out
Lee
there.
has a comment.
Mr. Lee?
Blaine Lee, 5713 Berlin. Just a question. In the master plan for the park, they proposed changing the entrance. You might want to consider that before you start putting sidewalks in. Make a decision one way or the other.
Yes, there was an entryway proposed to be relocated along Pasco Way, and that would require that this be modified should that ever happen.
To me, I don't see any reason to delay, because if the entrance is changed, then there's just a different driveway and you can still continue the sidewalk. And I think by the time we get to a change of the entrance, it'll be down the road a number of years. So I can't see delaying the extension here.
No, and I don't see as part of the overall project, essentially, cutting out that section and modifying it for the entrance is that,
Not a big
that's a small piece of the overall pie, so to speak.
Are there walkways up
Yes.
past there?
Mhm.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so this is just gonna make.
It's
it-
actually a
Bike trail ends.
continuation of the bike trail.
And that's, now the hike and bike trail, it's the city of Port Richey's hike and bike trail.
That's correct.
Mhm.
It's not the county's.
Correct.
Correct.
Okay, I wanted to clarify that, okay.
So I, with Bill though, I see a project to have done here. I want treadway. I want the people off the street if at all possible, because this is going to deposit them, I believe, right on the corner where all the traffic's at, and they're gonna end up in the street, and that bothers me. I would like to see that go around the corner, down and connect down, so that they can connect this thing down as we were planning. If possible, go underneath the bridge and go across and make the connection. Otherwise, it's a road to nowhere. It's good for Gildog, but the citizens are gonna ask us, why did you stop there? You went this far, why didn't you
Well,
finish
again,
off?
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
It's a safety concern as far as I'm concerned, was from day one. So when I got the end of this hike and bike trail, everybody goes in the street, including myself. I don't like walking in the street, it's
Right,
dangerous.
right.
So I would like to see the project expanded. I would like to get this thing around the corner and down to where there's at least a parking lot so that they can not have to walk in the street.
But essentially, again, why I clarified up front with Mr. O'Neill was that we don't have an easement past this point. We're off of city property.
I think all of us, certainly me, I'd love to see that myself. It's a good idea. However, at this point, that would require some major construction and modification, particularly at the intersection of Treadway and Old Post. If you'll recall where Mr. Soyan and Skilldog's sign is, it's elevated, the grade goes up considerably at that point, and I believe that it's in our best interest to build an improvement once we landscape or streetscape in the waterfront district, to do it in a way that encompasses a long-term vision for the whole area. What we've talked about, and we could talk about this at the next meeting because that's planned, as we talked earlier, but long-term, I think we may want to consider perhaps a one-way loop in the waterfront area and giving us some additional area of public right-of-way. We don't have enough area of public right-of-way at this point because the street and the right-of-way is very narrow in that area, particularly on Treadway. And if we considered a one-way loop and we made it one way, we could have half the street essentially for public sidewalk, ornamental lighting, landscaping, and so forth. And this sidewalk could be extended to the new sidewalk that would be built in the area. And if it's okay with the CRA, the next meeting that we have, we'll make a very brief presentation with what we presented to the Restore Act Committee, because I've sent that out to every council member and CRA member by email, but we could put that up on the wall and you can see what we proposed out there. And I would love to see that, Councilman Rowe. Right now, this puts it at a point where we can extend it, However, you know, keep in mind, once we extend it further and go around the corner and enter the district, we're talking about a little bit of a different kind of a project there because of limited right-of-way.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve this?
Motion to approve?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Okay, it passes. All right, that's the end of the agenda for this evening, and so I'm going to adjourn the meeting.
Go home.
Last I heard, Kansas City was ahead.
Oh, good.
I think we won. Talking to my sister between the break. What's that? She didn't say what inning.
That means we got a full series maybe coming up.
Maybe? I expect them to Kansas City. I don't know. Yeah,
Will Christmas swing and all that kind of stuff?
Swing and say they don't